Hi, good morning, everyone. It is June 17th. Uh, this is a Cape and Plymouth Business 360 where we look around our community at a poll question we put on our website. And we just like to get together, talk about the responses, what advice for folks based on our business or people we're helping, or just kind of give some, just kind of shoot back and forth on what we think it means. And joining us today is Matt Cronin from Boardwalk Financial and Mike Patterson from Good Habits Financial. And I'm sorry, Matt Cronin from Boardwalk Business Group, Mike Patterson from Good Habits Financial, and Robin, as we can plainly see, is from Cape Space in Hyannis, even though you could be in Mashpee. Good morning,
I could be
everyone. How are
anywhere.
you? You could be anywhere, right? Today's poll question that we're going to discuss is, what types of information are you looking for in a company's newsletter? So, email marketing seems to kind of come and go depending on seasonality and what the trends are. It's definitely something that we recommend for a lot of different reasons. And this poll was very heavily voted on, which leads me to believe it is still somewhat important or relevant in 2020. And the biggest response was sales, specials, and new service offerings. So like what's kind of new and happening. Second, we have company updates and announcements. Those two might be closely aligned. A third was upcoming events and webinars. I know, Robin, you have a lot of those at Cape Space. Close tie for, I guess, fourth, what's happening in the community, and also a letter from the owner. Industry news and surveying customers on performance, which is kind of like the same thing as a review, sort of towards the end. We had one other, which was also reviews. And then the last, which I just kind of put out there because in light of what's happening in our world right now, political stance on issues was the lowest. Now, again, this is a company newsletter. So let's start with Matt. Matt, what do you think about this poll, and what kind of advice might you have for your clients or other businesses who are thinking about a newsletter, or just your perspective?
Thanks, Dale. Yeah, obviously, I think there's a lot of things that run across the gamut, and a lot of answers to this question that I would probably check off myself, had I completed the poll. As I think about, what I try to do and what the newsletters that I like, first, I like them to be brief. Because I get so many, right? We all get so much in our inbox that there has to be something that, that can be read and understood in a short period of time. I like it to be relevant and timely. I'll give a nod to Robin. I really enjoy, the fact that Cape Space and their newsletters have, relevant, webinars and on-site meetings. I looked through a few recent ones, and they had stuff on Zoom, how to, create your background on Zoom. I probably should have taken that one. How to declutter your home, things that are, relevant and timely, and they're a bit unique too. There are so many newsletters that we get that, if you can express, if you can somehow convey the kind of what I call the DNA of your company, your clients, your approach, then and get that across to to your customers, I think that's a good thing. In particular, I really enjoy some organizations will do interviews of their staff or of their customers. And I think that's fun. You get to know a little bit more about the company, about the individual, about the client, and so I think that all kind of presents something that's unique, can be brief and relevant, and enjoyable, and you can move on to the next next email in your inbox quickly.
Great insight. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Mike or Robin, one of you want to throw in next?
I'll go. So I'd like to start by saying, Matt, thank you for your compliments on my newsletter. And I'd like to point out that my newsletter is produced by 118 Group.
There you go.
So we're really congratulating Dale and his team on, and Mary in particular, who do a great job on that newsletter. So yeah, we have found that our newsletter is one of our primary marketing tools. We have been working on growing that newsletter for a long time. And we do have a terrific open rate. We find that we do produce a lot of events here. And the newsletter is the primary source of registration for the events. As soon as that newsletter goes out, we immediately, start seeing the signups coming in. We also find that the newsletter is, if we're running specials, and I saw that was the #1 answer. If we're running a special or a sale of any kind, the newsletter is the #1 source of people taking advantage of those, those specials. And I can actually say this in my other capacity, one of my other capacities. I'm on a board of directors of the Cape Cod Technology Council, and I can say, and I'm the program chair there, and I can say that the primary sign up for our events at the Tech Council also come through the newsletter. So if anybody thinks email marketing is dead, it's not true. Your newsletter can be a really important part of your marketing strategy. I'd just like to point out one thing that wasn't on the poll that is very popular in our newsletter, which Matt touched on actually. It's our member spotlight. So every month we take a member and we have a little sort of James Lipton inside the actor studio type questionnaire that we run our members through. We pick one each month, and we promote it in the newsletter and on social media, and we posted it inside our spaces. It gives the members a little exposure and helps add some value to their membership here. But it's also very popular. People like to read about other, businesses on the Cape and see what, and a lot of times, small place, right? Everybody knows everybody. So they like to read about, friends or people they've met. So those are my thoughts.
Great insights. Thank you. Mike, what do you think about this?
Matt, I love your comment about the briefness of the newsletter. That's very important. I think a lot of us, if you see it, an overwhelming size of something, the tendency is just to kind of shut it out completely. And I think it was Shakespeare that said, brevity is the soul of wit. So there you go. The briefer, the better.
We're quoting Shakespeare.
Wow, hey. It's
It's only 9 a.m., Mike.
Yeah, well, I already had my I did have my coffee already, so I feel like it's probably about noontime. But with the proliferation of social media too, and how smart they are at understanding what you're doing out there on the web, to me, my choice was sales specials, new service offerings, because it is amazing how many times a purchasing decision will be based on a suggestion that you see, whether it is something you get in a newsletter or a suggestion that comes up through your social media account. So yeah, keeping your customers, your mailing list apprised of what you're doing business-wise, what kind of sales you have going on, what kind of new services you have going on. To me, those are things that I will that will draw my attention.
Great, awesome. Well, I think that that was a pretty succinct assessment of the poll. And any last words?
I have a couple last words. My first last word is, what about you, Dale? What are your thoughts?
Oh, nice.
This isn't about me. This is about you. No, I think, I sign up for a lot of newsletters, but I don't always read them, right? So I have a special email address that I use. It's signup@our, and when I get time and I'm like, I'm just kind of feeling like I need a break or a change up, I go to that and I start going through, and that's typically when I read the newsletters. I'm interested in what's going on. I'm looking for some kind of inspiration. And I would agree, you know, for me, I would agree with kind of how this poll shook out. I like the human side of the newsletter, just like a lot of you said. I kind of already know what's going on in the community, so it's less relevant for me, but I could see why someone else might understand that. And for our own newsletter, Cape and Plymouth, we have a great open rate. It's really hard for us to get a brief newsletter, and for Cape Space also, it's hard to keep it brief because there's just so much going on. So the priority of how you lay things out is really important. And I love the newsletters that have a teaser, right? You know, something and a surprise, or you know, it kind of makes it a little bit more exciting. It gets my attention. As long as the surprise is good, I like that. You know, I think that we're finding companies being a little bit more fun and a little bit more personable than we used to be. When I was in corporate America, you just didn't have fun. Like, your personality just didn't come through as much. And, you know, what I'm hearing here is that that's an important part of our culture. I think, especially on Cape Cod, knowing who you're doing business with, and like what's happening in their world and what's happening in their members' world. I think the member spotlight is another great idea. I don't know how you do it, Robin. That can be political. You know, like you do a great job of getting everyone the exposure. That's hard to do. So kudos to you. And that's my opinion.
I'll follow up to what you said there, because that was going to be my other final thought is, I guess my initial comments here were from the perspective of somebody sending the newsletter, but as a recipient of newsletters, you know, I never understand people who say, oh, I get too many emails. You know, it's like the delete takes a half a second if you don't want to read it. But the fact is that newsletters are a terrific way to stay on top of things that are going on. So for example, I subscribe to the newsletters of my competitors. I want to see what they're doing. And a lot of times they're doing, you know, things that are very relevant for me, and they have ideas that I didn't think of. I subscribe to, you know, industry publications. I subscribe to local, you know, just local organizations that I know do a lot of things in the community. I'll throw one out. Nauset Disposal has a terrific newsletter. They're very
they do.
active
I hear
in the
that a lot.
community. They have great stuff in there. They have a cool little poll that comes along with a raffle as a good prize. So I encourage people to sign up for newsletters, and just, you know, you can skim them in you know 20 seconds, and if there's nothing in there, you just delete it. So, you know, and as you did, Dale, good idea, is create a separate email for them, so they all go in one box, and when you have time, you can take a look through them. But there's definitely valuable information in people's newsletters.
Great. Well, that's great advice. I think just one last comment on your comment on the comment. You're in kind of the people business, right? So, you know, if your business is kind of having a pulse on the community, the newsletters are really important. If you're just kind of heads down and you're avoiding the world, maybe you get too many emails and you're like this, right? But to a lot of people, it is really important. Like I said, it's a small community. People look out for each other, especially in 2020. It's like, I don't know, I just feel like it's a great time to kind of get to know each other a little bit more while we're cooped up. So,
Yes.
any last words, guys?
Yeah, I would just
Robin
say that
does.
there's a lot to learn out there, right? So if you're a lifelong learner, these are great avenues, you know, to get information. And I actually like those little nuggets of relevant advice that I get from some, you know, some newsletters and some, you know, business people and others that I respect. You know, I'm continuously learning, and I think that that's a nice piece that we can get, you know, from the company newsletter as well.
Great point. Robin?
Just a final thought. Newsletters are a way of distilling down what is in newspapers to things that are micro, local, and relevant for you. So, it's a great. I'm pro newsletter.
All right. Well, this has been great. Everyone enjoy this beautiful, it's sunny right now. Who knows what will happen, but enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you, Dale. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Dale. See you later, guys.
See you guys.